Hey, what's up everybody? It's your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and today we are going to continue with part 2 of my entire movie collection. So in the last video, we went over all the movies that started with numbers. I think there was 25 or so, somewhere give or take. This time, we're going to go over all the movies that start with the letter A. And as you might be able to see, if you saw the last video, there's quite a few more in this one. In fact, I think there's probably about double. So I've got my glasses on, I'm laid back, relaxed, got my glass of water. Go ahead and get yourself something to sip on, and I'll try not to take too much time. I'm not gonna give a full review of every movie here, just gonna let you know what the movie is, maybe a word or two about it. If you want a full review of any of these movies, I do a Blu-ray Tuesday, if you don't know, where I review movies that you recommend on Blu-ray. So feel free to let me know what movies you'd like to see reviews of in the comments below. I am totally down for that. Hit me up and let me know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump right into the first movie in my collection that starts with the letter A, and that movie is About a Boy. About a Boy is a bit of a rom-com starring Hugh Grant. You've also got Rachel Weisz, Toni Collette, and where is he? There he is. A very young Nicholas Hoult. That's right, Nicholas Hoult, who you might recognize from a bunch of movies now. He's in the X-Men movies, but he was a little baby. Just a little, I think, 12-year-old boy in this one. Pretty good movie. I actually really dig this. I'm not like a huge rom-com fan, but this one kind of spoke to me. I think Hugh Grant's character is kind of a man-child, and I've definitely been a man-child at different times in my life, so I could relate. All right, next up, we've got About Time, which is another kind of rom-com. This one's got Domhnall Gleeson and Rachel McAdams, and it's a rom-com / time travel movie. You also have Bill Nighy, who I absolutely love, and this one's a pretty good movie. Again, I'm not a giant rom-com fan, but this one I really dig. It's a lot of fun, and the way they handle time travel is pretty interesting, so definitely recommend this one. In fact, I'll tell you right now, I recommend pretty much all of these movies. So in order to stop myself from saying I definitely recommend this one at the end of every movie I talk about, I'll just say it now. I love my collection. There are a couple movies in here that I own just because I feel like they're important movies to own, but I'll let you know about those when we get to them. Other than that, I love every movie in this collection, and I would absolutely recommend you pick up any of them. So here we go. We'll move on with the next one, which is The Accountant, a Ben Affleck joint where he plays an autistic accountant who is also a super badass spy type character that works for some shady people. You have also J.K. Simmons, who is trying to locate him and arrest him. And then you have Anna Kendrick, who becomes kind of his love interest, which is a bit weird because I think Anna Kendrick is significantly younger than Ben Affleck, but whatever. I won't get into that. But that is a weird thing that Hollywood likes to do, where you take a guy who is old enough to be your father and make him the love interest. All right, next up we have a bit of a double feature here, and that is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. I absolutely love these movies. I'll show you the back side of the Blu-rays here so you can check out the special features and stuff. I love both of these movies. I think probably prefer the first one, but the second one has so many moments in it that are absolute classics, the scene with the rhinoceros being one of them. I will say, if you are going to buy these movies, do not buy them separately. Do not buy the 25th anniversary edition Blu-ray that I have here, because they remove special features from the 25th anniversary edition, which is absolutely ridiculous. So do not make that same mistake. Just go ahead and get the double pack. You'll end up spending a third of the amount, and you'll get all the special features. So that was a mistake on my part, but I do love both of those movies. All right, next up, and please excuse my lisp, I have my Invisalign, and next up is going to be another bit of a double feature here. We have The Addams Family on 4K, with more Mamushka. And who doesn't love Mamushka? And we also have The Addams Family, the same movie, but also it comes with The Addams Family Values, which is the sequel. And honestly, I think I prefer the sequel. I mean, they're both really good, but the sequel, I feel like, had some really funny scenes in there and some really witty writing. So I picked up this both on 4K and on Blu-ray. I actually had the Blu-ray first, but then this 4K version came out, which has very much upgraded video quality and a bunch of really cool special features, so I had to pick that up. So I kind of double dipped, but I love both of these movies. In fact, I think I love them more now as an adult than I did even as a kid. So take that for what it is, but I think it's one of those movies where you watch it as an adult and you get a lot more out of it. All right, next up we have The Adventures of Tintin, which is a movie that has so many great ingredients. You have Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson working on the movie together. You've got Edgar Wright, I believe, who worked on the script. John Williams worked on the score. You have friggin', oh my god, what's his name? That does all of the motion capture for like Gollum and everything like that. Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is in it. This is an awesome animated movie from I think 2011, and I wish that they had multiple sequels, but unfortunately it does not. But really, really good. Definitely dig that movie. Okay, just had to cut there to take out my Invisalign because it was driving me crazy talking so much with those things in. All right, next up we have AI Artificial Intelligence, which is another Steven Spielberg joint. Haley Joel Osment, Jude Law in this one. This one is actually a pretty cool movie. The story behind how it got created is even cooler, I think. Stanley Kubrick actually came to Spielberg with the concept for this movie, and soon thereafter he passed away, and Spielberg basically ended up continuing and making the movie on his behalf. It's not a perfect movie. It definitely has some flaws with some of the storytelling and the pacing, but overall a pretty cool piece of cinematic history, and I really liked it. Next up is a classic comedy, and that is Airplane. I have the Paramount's Plus release of this, and this is definitely the way to go. Paramount kind of came out with these really cool bundles with like packaging, and you got a little poster here, and there's also all these special features. This movie is absolutely hilarious. You have Leslie Nielsen, and Leslie Nielsen was an icon of, I guess, late 70s, early 80s comedy. He was in a lot of those Naked Gun movies, which I also loved as a kid. But this one's really, really funny. Some great lines in here. Surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. So Airplane, absolute classic. Next up, we have a classic anime movie, and that is Akira. This is the 25th anniversary edition. Is a super trippy, sci-fi, gory, cyberpunk kind of movie that is really dope and is really impactful, not only in the world of anime, but just in the world of movies. And I absolutely love this one. I have the 25th anniversary edition on Blu-ray. It did more recently come out on 4K, which I don't own just yet, but I probably will pick up. I'll have to look into that to see if it's worth the upgrade. But Akira, one of the best anime movies ever made. All right, next up on the list, we have Aladdin, which is my favorite Disney movie of all time. I love Disney movies. There's a few that I'm not a massive fan of, but Aladdin was definitely the one that when I was a kid, and this came out, I think it was 92, so I was a little kid, but seeing a character that somewhat resembled me, being a brown kid and seeing a brown protagonist was pretty dope at the time. And also, who doesn't love magic carpet rides and Robin Williams as the genie and magic powers and things going off? So Aladdin is a great movie and has an absolutely stunning soundtrack, and definitely love that I have this one. A lot of the Blu-ray or 4K releases that Disney puts out are not always the best as far as the picture and sound quality, but this one's really, really good. So I dig Aladdin. I did see the live action, but that is not in my collection because I didn't feel like it was something worth purchasing, but I liked it enough. It was fine. All right, next up, another Disney classic, Alice in Wonderland. This is the 60th anniversary edition, which is kind of nuts to think about how long ago this movie came out. But we have the 60th anniversary edition. This movie is super trippy. It is an acid trip, and it's kind of ridiculous that this is a kid's movie because it's like there were some things going on in the making of this movie that, I don't know what was going on, but I love this movie. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and it just gets better with repeat viewings, especially as you grow up and you watch this as an adult. You're like, there's a lot of stuff I missed in that when I was a kid. All right, next up is a few, actually, Alien movies. So we have the Alien 40th anniversary edition on 4K. This is quite possibly the best horror sci-fi movie ever made. I love this movie, and it's, one of my favorite movies of all time. So I have that on 4K. It looks stunning. Absolutely love that. I have the Alien quadrilogy, which includes that movie again, but it also comes with Aliens, which is one of my favorite sci-fi action movies. And then Alien 3, which was all right. David Fincher directed it, but there's a lot of studio interference on that one. But I think overall, a pretty good movie. Alien Resurrection, not so good. That one was super cheesy, and I guess it's kind of fun, but yeah, not a great movie at all. Then there's Alien Covenant, which I also have on 4K. I really like Alien Covenant. I know that this movie is kind of hit and miss. There are some people that love it, some people that hate it. I think I fall into the category that loves it. I love the world that they built around aliens, whether it's Alien Covenant or through the Prometheus movies. I think it's really cool to see all of this history. I dig it. I like Alien Covenant. Sue me. All right, next up is Alita Battle Angel, which is a James Cameron joint. He had been working or wanting to work on this movie for many, many years, and he finally came out with it, and it's all right. It's, look, I'm always going to be here to promote anything that is related to the world of anime. I love anime. I love manga. So I love that they finally made this movie. It didn't blow me away. And it kind of left it super open-ended to where, oh, wow, are we going to get a sequel? And they just haven't done anything. So I don't know if we're ever going to get a sequel to this movie. But, I would watch it. I would probably buy it if they did come out with one. But overall, it was for something that a creator like James Cameron wanted to work on for so many years. it kind of came out with a bit of a whimper. So I don't know. Alita Battle Angel, still pretty good, just not as good as I hoped it would have been. All right, next up we have, this is a childhood classic of mine, and that is All Dogs Go to Heaven, which is a Don Bluth film. Now, I don't know if you know about Don Bluth. Don Bluth used to work at Disney, and he kind of went off and did his own thing, and came out with a bunch of movies, especially like in the 90s, and this is one of them. All Dogs Go to Heaven. There's a couple more actually in my collection that we'll get to, and I'll shout them out once we do. But I love this movie. I saw this a million times as a kid, and I absolutely had to pick it up on Blu-ray. But shout out to Don Bluth. I don't think he's with us anymore, but had some great movies that he came out with independently or relatively independently after his time at Disney. All right, next up we have a movie called Almost Famous, which this is one of those movies that is very much beloved, and it's a movie that was recommended to me a bunch of times, and I eventually just blind bought it on Blu-ray, and I do enjoy the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's a very good movie, but it's just not one of those that I feel the need to go back and watch over and over again. Again, I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It's very good. In fact, there are a couple other movies in my collection that fall into this category. They're classics that are good, that I enjoyed, that I just don't really feel the need to watch again. So Almost Famous unfortunately falls into that for me. If you love Almost Famous, let me know in the comments below. Am I missing something, or is it just, maybe it was just I wasn't there in the zeitgeist when this was really big? But it's a good movie, but not one that I think maybe I needed to have in my collection. I just kind of blind bought it. So there we go. Almost Famous. It's in there. Next up, oh boy, I just talked about why I wasn't super into Almost Famous. And this next one that I pull out is going to make you guys judge me so hard. And that is The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Hey, look at that. I have the 2-movie collection. These movies. Okay, the first Amazing Spider-Man, not bad, pretty good. I think it came out too close to the original trilogy, which is why it probably wasn't received as well, because it was like, we just saw this a few years ago. Why are you doing this again? The second movie was not good at all. I did not like the second movie, but I own them because I am a giant comic book nerd. And just as I am with anime, in that I have to buy every anime movie that comes out on Blu-ray, I have to buy every comic book movie that comes out on Blu-ray because it's a part of me. It's a part of my soul. So I have both Amazing Spider-Man movies on 4K Blu-ray, the little special edition here that comes with like all these inserts with like little images from the movie and a bunch of special features and all kinds of cool stuff. So I do have that, and it's all right. What am I gonna do? So Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, don't judge me. All right, next up is American Beauty, which is a really weird movie, a very kind of dark comedy, I guess. Yeah, kind of a dark comedy with, He Who Shall Not Be Named, Kevin Spacey. And, really looking back on this movie, Kevin Spacey, was he pretending? Or was this just him being him? Because his character in this movie is hella creepy. And it turns out he's a creep in real life. So I don't know if he was acting or if that was just him being himself. But still a pretty good movie, and one that kind of sheds this light on almost the desperate, mundane nature of being a middle-aged man in America in, the late 90s or something, early 2000s. So a very interesting movie, a very good movie, and kind of a movie that I enjoy as a dark comedy. Next up, we have American Gangster on 4K. This is a Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe joint based on a true story of this guy who was basically a gangster in Harlem who ended up working with the military, I think, in like smuggling drugs over from Vietnam. Crazy story. And a pretty good movie. This is one that, it's a Ridley Scott movie. I think it was really popular, got a lot of hype. I enjoyed it. This is one of those that falls into that category of, I'm probably not going to go back and watch it a bunch though, but still a really good movie, and I love movies that are based on true stories. So this is one for me that I really dug. Next up, we have another movie here called American History X. This has Edward Norton and Edward Furlong, which was Edward Furlong the kid from Terminator? Am I mixing them up? I don't remember. But anyway, Edward Norton. Yeah, he is the kid from Terminator. Terminator 2. Oh my God. Whatever happened to that guy? Anyway, Edward Norton plays this like neo-Nazi who goes away to prison, and in prison kind of finds his way into no longer being a racist douchebag. And when he comes out, his little brother is now kind of following in his footsteps. And so he is trying to save him from the same life that he lived. It is a very dark movie with some very disturbing scenes, but a really good story. I really, really enjoyed watching this, and a really interesting insight, not just into the mind of a neo-Nazi, but into kind of that time period. This was in the, I think, mid to late 90s in LA, and it kind of shows what was going on there with like gang violence and, kind of the separation of different cultures and the toxicity of it. A very, very good movie. Very heavy though, so know that going into it, but really, really good. Next up is a movie called American Hustle. This one is a movie in which all of the ingredients are incredible. You've got Bradley Cooper, Christian Bale, Jennifer Lawrence, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, a ridiculous cast, a ridiculous crew, and won a ton of awards, and I liked it. I did like it, but this is another one that falls into that category of really good movie. Probably not going to watch it again. So I don't know. I did like the movie though, and I think overall all of the parts were really good. As far as like if you're making a soup or a cake or whatever, like all the ingredients were very good. But it's just not something I really want to go back and taste again. But American Hustle, I have it here on Blu-ray. Next up is one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, it is definitely my favorite dark comedy of all time, no question. And that is American Psycho, which I have here on 4K, the uncut version. This is Christian Bale, and I tell you, after watching this movie, I was like, this guy would be an incredible Batman after watching this movie. It is dark, but it's not dark in like the same way that like American History X is dark. It's dark, but in the most absurd ways. And Christian Bale plays this character so well that you can't help but, I don't want to say loving the character because the character is so messed up, but kind of, right? Like you're kind of like, I just like watching this guy be absolutely insane. So American Psycho, love this movie. My favorite dark comedy of all time. Hands down. All right, next up, we've got another Don Bluth joint. This one here is An American Tale, which is the story of Fievel and his family, who are some mice from Russia, and they are emigrating to America, and they're dealing with a lot of like racism. There are these cats that they're always running from that are trying to kill them, and it's kind of an allegory. An allegory? Is that the right word? I don't even know. Basically, it's about what happened with a lot of the Jews, Russian Jews in the 40s? Yeah, right? Yes. Oh my God. Oh no, why did I start talking about history? I don't know anything about history. Anyway, it's a really good movie, and it's a Don Bluth movie, so the same guy who did the All Dogs Go to Heaven movie, and another one that's on this list that we'll get to in a bit, but really, really good. This is one from my childhood that is an absolute classic, and one that I have gone back and watched over and over again, and it has some pretty good songs in here as well. It's a good little musical. So, An American Tale. There's a sequel, An American Tale, Fievel Goes West. Don't bother with that one. It's not particularly all that good. That was on a lot when I was a kid, and I think this one just all around is the much better movie. So, An American Tale. Next up is An American Werewolf in London. This is an absolute classic when it comes to horror and werewolf movies and special effects, specifically practical effects. And this is the Arrow Video Collection, which is kind of like, if you're not familiar with Arrow Video, it's not too dissimilar from the Criterion Collection, where they basically take these classic movies and put every special feature known to man on the same disc. So this has so many special features. If you are into this movie, which if you're a movie fan, you should be, it's a classic, but you know, hey, taste is subjective. If you are into this movie though, I absolutely recommend you pick up this Arrow Video Collection. This is going to have everything you could possibly want on it. An American Werewolf in London, got that one in the collection. Next up is another historical piece. This one's called Amistad. Now, this movie, I feel like, was not as popular as some of the other historical films that came out in its time. It is about a group of slaves that were being brought over from Africa on a ship called the Amistad. And again, it's based on a true story. While they were at sea, the Africans that were being captured overtook the captors and killed them. And then the ship gets found by the Navy, and they're like, well, whose ship is this? Who does it belong to? Who do the slaves belong to? At the time, it was illegal to bring people over from Africa into slavery. You could only really trade the people that already lived in America, and which is a wild thing to say, but it's the truth. And so these slaves were being smuggled over illegally. So in reality, they should have been free. They should have been sent back home. And so there was this whole court case that occurred. The president or former president got involved. James Adams, I think. Was it Adams? I don't know. I'm bad with history. Oh God. But anyway, a really cool story and a really interesting insight into the legal system in America at that time. Very cool. Next up, nowhere near as good of a film, but still one that I've seen far too many times, and that is Anaconda. So Anaconda came out in the 90s. This is a movie that I saw a bunch as a kid. It's got Ice Cube. It's got J-Lo. It's got Jon Voight, who I feel like is a poor man's Anthony Hopkins. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think isn't that Angelina Jolie's dad? I don't know. But the movie is completely ridiculous. They're on the Amazon River. A bunch of giant snakes attack them and eat them. And it's got horrible CG for the snakes. But it's a dumb, fun movie. Anaconda. I had to add it to my collection. It's too much historical significance. At least historical in that I watched it a bunch as a kid. Next up, another Don Bluth movie. Holy cow, so many Don Bluth movies start with the letter A. This one is Anastasia, which is based on the real story of the Romanov family, I think. Was it the Romanovs? I don't remember. A Russian family that was killed and their daughter went missing, Anastasia, and they thought maybe she survived. Maybe she was still out there. In this movie, she is, and they find her and she becomes the princess again or something, but in real life, she did not. She was just dead. So there's that. Anyway, next up is a double feature of Anchorman and the sequel, Anchorman, the Legend Continues. Both of these movies I feel like are really good. I think I like the first one more, although the second one has a few moments that are completely ridiculous. There's a scene where all of these famous actors and actresses have a cameo. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but this movie's been out for so long. Will Smith is in it, and you get to see him assault somebody for... No, I'm not going to make that joke. It's too easy of a joke to make. I'm not doing it. The fact of the matter is it's a really funny movie. Both of them are really funny. Definitely recommend checking this out. I said I wouldn't say definitely recommend checking this out, but I've been doing it, I feel like, and I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay, we are beyond halfway there. Please bear with me. Next up is a funky little thin pack I have here, but it's the only way I could find this movie, and that is The Animatrix, which is a movie, I guess. It's really a collection of animated shorts by famous Japanese anime directors and creators. And if you are a fan of The Matrix, I love the first Matrix. Every other thing The Matrix has put out since then has not been that great, in my opinion. But The Animatrix is hella dope. So if you are a fan of the original Matrix, absolutely have to check out The Animatrix. It's very cool. There are a couple shorts in here that are, not as good as the others, but overall, very cool. And it's cool to get like this insight into the world of the Matrix before it got taken and changed into everything it is now. It's so convoluted and ridiculous, but this one's really good. Next is a trippy sci-fi movie called Annihilation with Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac. This movie is really cool and really trippy and really beautiful. And I know that not everyone loved it when it first came out because it was so odd. I feel like people thought like, oh, it's an alien invasion movie and there's gonna be aliens and they're gonna do alien stuff and everybody's gonna machine guns and we all win in the end. But no, it's a lot more than that. It's more of a psychological kind of flick, and I really love this one. There's another one actually in here that is similar, not in any way that it's a very different movie. We'll get to it, but it also has like a lot of psychological stuff going on with an alien invasion, and I just really like that kind of thing. I like cerebral sci-fi. So Annihilation, very, very good. Next up is a little bit of a double feature here. We've got both Ant-Man movies, Ant-Man and the Wasp on 4K, of course, because I have to have every superhero movie in the best possible format, and I've got both of those here. There's the special features if you want to take a look at those. Sorry if I'm covering up with my fingers. I like both of these movies. I do think they're more like B-rate Marvel movies, if I'm being honest. I mean, I love Paul Rudd, and he's very funny, he's very charming, but I don't know. I just feel like these movies they're not as grand scale as a lot of the other Marvel movies, but they're also just not as consistently funny as you would want them to be. They definitely have their moments. There are a few moments. There's a moment inside of a briefcase in the first movie that I love, and I always, every time it comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, good movies, but if you're not a giant fan of the superhero genre, you don't have to own them. I just own them because I am a giant fan. So both Ant-Man movies on 4K. Next up is an absolute classic, and that is Apocalypse Now, the final cut. I just recently actually did a review of another final cut on this channel, so if you want to check that out, hop on over to the channel. Maybe I'll link it below. I did a final cut of Blade Runner, but this is the final cut of Apocalypse Now, which is a wild movie. It is a wild movie. Not only that, the creation of this movie is absolutely wild. And in this, this comes with every special feature you could possibly imagine, including a documentary that is, I forget what it's called, but it's something like The Descent into Madness or some weird thing like that. But yeah, there is a documentary on here about the making of Apocalypse Now that is really interesting, and it's kind of cool to see. It's Francis Ford Coppola, and it's just cool to see his struggle with like the studios and also his struggle with the practicality of filming on set in the jungle. Everybody's losing their minds. It's a really cool movie. Next up is Apollo 13, which I'll be honest with you, not the biggest fan of this movie. I do like it and I appreciate its historical significance, but it's just not a movie that I care to go back and watch time and time again. I don't know why. Maybe I should watch it again more currently. I haven't seen it in a little while, so maybe if I watch it again, you know how it is. Sometimes you give a movie a couple years, go back to it, and then it hits a switch for you. But this is a really good movie. Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, Ed Harris is in here, and yeah, it's just not something that really grabs me. I don't know. Let me know. Do you guys like Apollo 13? Is it just me? Am I crazy? I don't know. All right, next up, another superhero movie. We have Aquaman. The DC movies just haven't really been that great. Not all DC movies, okay, right? The Joker was really good. The Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy was really good. The new Batman movie, really good. But all of these DC Universe movies, I feel like have just been not that great. I liked the first Wonder Woman. That one was good. That might be the best one. But, it's a comic book movie. I have to support comic book movies, and it does have some cool visuals in it, so I have it on 4K. Also, I will say DC does really good with their 4K. Marvel, and we'll get to some Marvel movies here in a bit, doesn't always do the best with their picture quality on their 4K discs. Disney does, though, so I really appreciate that. Next up is a bit of a 90s classic here. Is it 90s or is it early 2000s? I forget. But that is Armageddon with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck and, oh my gosh, what's her name? The daughter of the dude from Aerosmith. I don't remember. Anyway, Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler? Yes. And this movie is not particularly great movie, but it's fun. I like it. I'll be honest with you. If I'm comparing this to Apollo 13, I know Apollo 13 is a better movie. I know that. I can see that, but I just rather watch this. What does that mean? What does that say about me? Am I a crazy person? I don't know. Armageddon. Let me know if you agree with me. Which would you rather watch right now? Apollo 13 or Armageddon? And be honest. Don't you lie to me. I'll know if you're lying. All right. Next up is Army of Darkness, which is a movie that I didn't get turned on to until maybe like a year or two ago. But man, I love this movie. It's so fun and ridiculous. And I just wish I had seen this years ago because I feel like I missed the train on it. I don't know. There's still plenty of people who are fans of Army of Darkness, but this is a movie that it was never on my radar until just recently, but I had to pick it up on Blu-ray because it's that good. Next up is another trippy sci-fi movie, and that is Arrival. And this one is, let's see, what can I say without spoiling it? It's about an alien invasion, but not really, but kind of. And Amy Adams is a linguist, and so she's trying to figure out a way to communicate with these aliens. And I'm not going to say much more than that because there is something I could say that would be a massive spoiler, but it gets way weird and trippy from there. So I really dig this movie. Again, I like those kind of cerebral sci-fi movies that aren't your typical alien invasion flicks, and this is definitely that. So I love Arrival. I thought it was really, really good. Next up is, I think, the only DVD I have in this entire bundle, but that is As Good as It Gets. And the reason I have it on DVD is because simply it's just not available on Blu-ray, which is kind of weird because I feel like this movie is so popular and won a ton of awards. And yeah, I don't know. And I really love it. It's a bit problematic, right? Jack Nicholson's character in here is a complete a-hole, but it's a very quotable movie. You make me want to be a better man. It's just a really good rom-com from the late 80s or late 90s, and I really enjoyed it. And hopefully they'll come out with it on Blu-ray at some point in the not too distant future because I'd love to upgrade that in my collection. Next up is a double feature here, but I'll be honest, I don't remember the last time I saw the second movie. This is Atlantis. You have Atlantis: The Lost Empire and Atlantis: Milo's Return. I love the first Atlantis movie. I don't remember the second one. I'll be honest, I don't even know if I ever saw the second one. Maybe I did, but I don't think I've seen it all that often or that many times. So Atlantis is a super fun Disney movie that I feel like didn't get maybe enough of a push, or maybe it was just came out at the wrong time. That happens a lot, especially back in the day where you didn't have the internet as big as it is now, and a movie would come out and get buried by another movie and then wouldn't get its kind of day in the sun. But this is a really, really good movie, a really fun movie. You've got, what's his name? Marty McFly. I forget the actor's name, I'm sorry, but he plays the main character, and it's a really fun animated movie that I dig from back in the days. I keep saying back in the day. I swear to God, if I say back in the day one more time, I want you to slap me, okay? If you hear me say back in the day, or if you hear me say definitely check it out, or if you hear me say it's a really good one, I want you to reach through the screen and just slap me in the face. Just paintbrush both sides. Ba ba, okay? All right, let's move on. I'm irritating myself. All right, next up is Atonement, which is not a rom-com. It's a romance movie, but it's also a war movie, and it's got a really cool ending to it. I won't spoil what the ending is, but it's actually pretty dope. This is one that I think my girlfriend brought and added into our collection. When we moved in together, we combined movie collections, and this I think she had on DVD, and I was like, no. Upgrading that to Blu-ray because that's just, look, if it's on Blu-ray, we're getting it on Blu-ray. We're not just gonna have it on DVD for what? So we got this movie upgraded, and I checked it out. I hadn't seen it prior to that, and I thought it was really good. So this is one that I'll say, okay, if you're out there and like me, you're not a big romance fan as far as romance movies are concerned, but your girlfriend is, check out this movie because you're both gonna enjoy it. All right, there you go, little pro tip right there, little life hack. All right, next up is a sci-fi action comedy-ish movie. This one's called Attack the Block. Basically, aliens have invaded the UK, and a group of hooligans are trying to fight them back. And you've got John Boyega. I think this was his big break, and he's really good in it, and it's a really fun movie. So absolutely enjoyed this one. Kind of, goofy goofy, over the top. It's also a bit of like, it has like an independent vibe to it. So you can tell there wasn't a ton of money poured into it, into the movie. But overall, they did a really good job. So Attack the Block, that's a fun one. All right, next up, we're almost there, guys. We're honestly like just a few away. So we have a trilogy here. This is the Austin Powers trilogy. I love the Austin Powers movies from when I was a kid. I watched these over and over again. The third one, I think, is probably my least favorite, but overall, these movies are so much fun, and I just wish Mike Myers would come back and do a follow-up to these movies. That would be so great. But Austin Powers, super fun. Got the trilogy on Blu-ray. Next up, we have Avatar, what is this, like the extended super duper magic edition with all the special features. I have this on regular Blu-ray. I don't know why this movie is not available on 4K. James Cameron, what are you doing? Like, the whole reason this movie was as popular as it was because of the visuals, and you're not using the most capable visual medium that we have available to us. Maybe he'll do it when the sequel comes out, which is a whole nother story, but that sequel, is it gonna come out? I'll believe it when I see it. But Avatar, really cool movie, really cool visual effects, and it still holds up to this day, even though it came out like 10 years ago, I think, something like that, and just waiting for it on 4K. Let's get it going, Jimmy Cams. What are we doing? All right, next up, we've got a 4-pack here. And after this, we have one more movie. So we are pretty much almost done here. This is a 4-pack of all 4 Avengers movies. I have all 4 on 4K Blu-ray with the slip covers, which is dope because it's sometimes hard to get slip covers for these movies. I love all of these movies. I think the second one, which is the Age of Ultron, is probably my least favorite, but I still do enjoy it. I just prefer the comic book story of Age of Ultron over the movie itself, but all very good. You have the original Avengers, you have Age of Ultron, we've got Infinity War, and we've got Endgame. All very good movies. I love Avengers. I love everything that Marvel did with that whole world and all of the characters within it. Here, I'll show you the back sides of the Blu-rays as well if you want to see those. Give you a quick second on those. But yeah, these are all really good. I will say, as far as the picture quality, okay, and I wanted to touch on this a little earlier, the picture quality on a lot of these Marvel movies, it's not bad. The picture quality is not bad. It's the color grading, I think. And I understand why, but what they've essentially done is desaturated a lot of the colors in these movies. And they do it because you have so much going on screen, right? You have a giant green man and a dude in a blue suit and a dude in a bright red armor. And like, there's all these different colors happening on screen. And if you had the vividness cranked up, it would just look super contrasty and probably overwhelming. So what they did to solve it was to just dull everything down. And I don't dig that. So I don't like that they did that with the movies, but what can you do, really? I doubt they're going to change it because Marvel is a machine. And at this point, they're run by Disney and they're just in the business of making as much money as they possibly can. And dudes like me don't really matter. So that got dark and depressing. I'm sorry. I'm sure I do matter to someone. My mom tells me I'm special. Okay, next up, the last movie in the entire A section of my collection. Hey, that rhymed. Bars, son. All right, is The Aviator, which is Leo DiCaprio playing Howard Hughes. So another movie based on a true story. Howard Hughes was a brilliant mind who was also an absolute Looney Tune. And Leo plays him very well. This movie's really good. It won a bunch of awards. And I think this probably should have been the award, or the movie that Leo won Best Actor on. Maybe. I don't know. He was very good in it. But yes, very good movie based on a true story. I love my historical films. I feel like I'm noticing a trend here. I like historical films. I like sci-fi cerebral films. I like comic book films. But this is it. These are all the movies that I have that start with the letter A. I think there's probably close to 60 movies in here. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments below. Did you count along? I didn't. But if so, let me know how many movies I have in this little bundle. And in the next time, we will move on to the next letter in my collection, which is B, which I also have a bunch of movies that start with the letter B. And we'll just continue to go from there. But that's it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you have any movie recommendations for me, definitely let me know. As I mentioned before, I do a Blu-ray Tuesday. Did I mention before? I think I did. It's been so long. I don't know where I am anymore. But I do a Blu-ray Tuesday thing where you recommend Blu-rays for me to buy and watch and review. So if you have any recommendations for that, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, click right over into here to check out the numbers. That's right. You already missed a video. You're jumping in late. I did a review of all of my numbers, movies that start with numbers. So jump on into that right now. Check that out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. All right. Be good.